Hello, namaskar viewers. I am Sanjeev Pandya welcoming you to this week's episode of the Tax Talk with AJ Kumar. The show is brought to you by Science CPA Services, a professional, full-fledged accounting firm, as well as the tax advisors here in state of New Jersey. They can guide you, advise you on your personal or corporate taxes matter, as well as any company-related matter. That means if you want to start a business, if you have already started a business, if you want to change the entity structure of it, or you need advice on a virtual CEO, CFO, Science CPA Services can help you in all those categories, and that's why they are one of the best known Science CPA Services here in New Jersey and the USA. You can contact them at 908-380-6876 or visit their website sciencecpaservices.com. With that note, I'd like to welcome Mr. AJ Kumar of Science CPA Services. Good evening and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sanjeev. I appreciate the kind introduction.
Sure, Science CPA Services, everyone talks about it. When it comes to taxes, and when you want to have your taxes done right, that is the Science CPA Services for you. Okay, so let's begin. Here we are, and tax season is just now beginning to heat up as we are now in the middle of January 2024. That means you must be filing taxes for the 2023. And I'd like to add one more thing. In case if you didn't file your taxes in last year or year before, and you must be wondering what to do, I would say immediately contact Science CPA Services, set up a meeting with them and go over through all the details and make sure that you file back year's taxes and they catch up with it. Don't worry about what you need to pay, what not, but the first thing is to file your taxes. Okay, all right, so now we're going to begin in this episode. We're going to start with 1099. 1099 is very, very famous term that everyone talks about it, but who should get 1099, why they should get 1099, what's the difference between 1099 and the W-2, but the most important question I have for AJ is what exactly is 1099?
Absolutely. So 1099 is a form, is a document that when a business, a for-profit business, files the 1099, a copy of the 1099 gets submitted to the IRS. The way you file your taxes, 1040, your business taxes, you submit it to the IRS, you submit it to the state. Similarly, 1099 is an IRS document which gets submitted to IRS, gets submitted to the state, and you give a copy to the contractor, to the consultant who provided the services. Now, the government knows how much money this person, this consultant, this contractor made. So if this consultant, this contractor does not file taxes or does not report the right income, government has a way to go behind them to find out what happened, why the income was not reported right. There are different type of 1099s, Sanjeevji. You will see the bank issues a 1099. We refer it as 1099 INT, interest. Then you have 1099 miscellaneous, rental income. The businesses typically issues a 1099 to the landlord, and we call it 1099 miscellaneous. You could have the royalty income, that will be 1099 miscellaneous. The contractor, the consultant, gets 1099 NEC, and NEC stands for non-employee compensation, meaning I'm paying you, I'm compensating you, but you are not an employee. Non-employee compensation, NEC, is 1099 that's typically given out to the contractor.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, when you file a tax return, I know among many other documents, the most common two documents, one is W-2, and we all know what W-2 is, that's fine. So other than W-2 is the 1099 for all these various income that person receives, right? And for that person gets a 1099 from the supplier or the vendor or manufacturer or whatnot. So these two are the important documents, W-2 and 1099, in order to figure out person's income.
You're 100% right. When it comes to the income side of the tax return, you will typically have a 1099. It could be a social security statement. That's also a 1099. It could be interest income, dividend income, rental income, royalty income, non-employee compensation. But the treatment, the key here is the treatment for each 1099 is different. Meaning,
yes,
by mistake, if you issue a 1099 NEC as opposed to 1099 INT, the person who's getting this 1099 will end up paying 15% more taxes than what they need to.
True.
So you need to be careful. Even though you're getting the 1099 as a contractor, as a consultant, you need to be careful what type of 1099 you're getting. So as a landlord, you do not want to be getting 1099 NEC. If you get a 1099 NEC as a landlord, you push back. You tell the tenant, you tell that business, I'm a landlord. I'm supposed to be getting 1099 miscellaneous, MISC. I'm not supposed to be getting 1099 NEC. Typically, 1099 NEC will attract self-employment taxes, which is roughly 15.3% on the net profit, as opposed to 1099 INT, 1099 miscellaneous, 1099R. All those documents, all those type of 1099 Sanjeevji, they do not pay self-employment taxes.
Okay.
So you have to know what type of 1099 you're getting, and if this is the right type of 1099 you should be getting.
Okay. All right. So while our viewers are making note of this, all these different categories in 1099, or making sure that what kind of 1099 they got and how it should be reported on the tax return, let me just say that your 1099 must have your full name, complete address, okay, and your social security number or EIN, employer identification number. That is must. You must have either one of two, and then you must have total amount received in the year 2023 from that source, so that way it can be reported on a tax return. Now, AJ, that's a basic stuff. My question to you is that, again, the 1099 limit is $600, right?
Absolutely.
Anything above $600, person must issue 1099 to whoever that they paid money. How long has it been $600, and why $600?
600 is pretty low, and it has been 600 forever. You are 100% right. There have been discussions about making it 5,000. There have been discussions about making it 20,000. But again, at the end of the year, it remains 600. The rule does not get passed, and this is how it's been 600. But we want to remind our viewers, the $600 is not a one payment. $600 means the total payment that you made during the year, throughout the year, in total. Let's say if you are paying somebody $50 a week, you probably paid them $2,600 by the end of the year. They should get a 1099 even though you are paying only $50. 1099 should also be issued if you paid somebody in cash. It doesn't matter how you paid, check, cash, Venmo, Zelle. If you paid somebody for your business, you need to issue them a 1099 as long as you paid more than $600 in the prior calendar year. We also want to remind our viewers the deadline, Sanjeevji. The deadline to issue the 1099 for 2023 is January 31st. We are supposed to be issuing these 1099s within 30 days of the next year.
Okay, all right. Now, let's talk about 1099s. Contractors should get 1099, and there is an employee who gets a W-2. But can an employee get 1099?
Typically not. Very, very rare. In one of those situations when you have a contractor who is working for you and you really, really like their work, after 6 months you decide to hire them as an employee. But for the same duration when the employee was working, those payments should not be on 1099. It's possible, at least technically, that the same person, same social security number, was on 1099 for some period of time. Let's say, for example, if you have an employee and this employee says, you know, I want to go solo. I'll be working for you, but I want to start my own company. You give a 1099 to my company. So you got the employee. After 6 months, after some time, they switched to a 1099, but not for the same period.
All right. Now let's go into the contractors category. You know, define a little bit more in a detail about contractors getting 1099 and what are the things the contractors should really remember or should make a note of these things.
Absolutely. So there are a lot of contractors, a lot of small business owners act as a contractor to a lot of other businesses. First thing we want to remind our viewers that please don't issue the 1099 to the cleaning lady. The 1099 is supposed to be issued for the payments that you made for your business, not for the personal. If you are at your home, if you don't have a business, at your home, the heating system is not working and you had to fix the heating system. You paid $3,000 to this HVAC guy. Do you need to issue the 1099? No, you don't have a business. The 1099 is for the payments that you made for your business through the business account, not through the personal account. Now, going back to contractor, what the contractor should keep in mind. any contractor who is getting these 1099, they should make sure the 1099 is right. It matches with their record. If the check was written out to the business, the 1099 should go to the business. If the check was written out to the individual, the 1099 should go to the individual. All the contractors, Sanjeev, have the right to offset the 1099 income against their expenses. For example, the work did not happen by itself. You may have to go there. So the travel expense, meals expense, tools expense, insurance probably that you had to take for your work. All those expenses that you had against this 1099 income are valid, legitimate, deductible expense. And also remember, the self-employment tax, the social security tax, the Medicare tax that the contractor is supposed to pay are supposed to be paid on the net income. Higher the net income, higher the taxes you pay. So look for those expenses. Use the shoebox approach. Any receipt that you have, keep it separate. Try to separate the expenses by the job. It will be easier for you to see if you are making profit and how much profit percentage you are making for each job.
Okay, interesting. Now, a person who receives 1099, let's say contractor, contractor named John Schwan, so receives 1099, and when they file a tax return, it's all 1099 income. Is it true that when someone receives 1099, their fully 100% income is through 1099, they are eligible or they can claim a lot of other deductions than the employee who receives W-2?
Absolutely.
But let's hold on to this.
Absolutely.
That's all coming up in the second half. All right, viewers, we're watching the Tax Talk, and we're going to continue with this conversation that, why a 1099 person can claim more deductions than an employee who's getting W-2. That's all coming up right after this messages. Stay with us.
Did you know when the first income tax filing was done and why was it done? In US in 1861, during the Civil War, when the government needed to fund the Civil War, that's the time they started the income tax. So the first income tax filing was for the year 1861. So now you know for how long we have been paying the income taxes. So coming back to 1099.
That's why we call that Uncle Sam, because they needed to raise money and everything else. Now, AJ, I have a question before you go into 1099 detail. 1861, that's when the government of US, or rather Congress, started this, taxing the people with their income. And back then it was a very, very high interest rate and whatnot.
Absolutely.
If I were to ask you a question, can you help me to find all the tax returns from 1861 till now? Could you help me?
I'm not sure. See, the government doesn't keep records for more than 7 years. So there is a process to go back and archive the records. There is a fees for it. But I don't know if they will keep the record for 300 years or 250 years.
I want to have a Guinness Book of World Record to file taxes of, last 200 plus years. That's why I'm saying is it would be nice. Anyway, all right, all joking aside, let's continue our conversation. Right before the break, as we were discussing 1099, I asked AJ a question that, when a person gets all their income from 1099, how are they eligible for more deductions to claim on their tax return than the employee who gets W-2?
So after the TGCA, for last few years, last 4 years, 5 years, the employees are not allowed to deduct job-related expenses. That's one thing I want to point out. So if you are on a W-2 job, your travel expenses, your meal expenses, buying the office stationery expenses, buying the laptop expenses, your home office expenses, none of it is deductible on a W-2 job. When you have a 1099, you are classified as self-employed. You are working for yourself. You are a contractor. So for you, home office expense, buying the laptop, travel expense, insurance for you, for the job that you are doing, meals expense to a certain extent, if you have to take the clients out, all those expenses becomes deductible. And a lot of people ask, Sanjeevji, what can I deduct it for my business? The rule of thumb is, close your eyes, ask yourself, would I have had this expense if I did not have the business? Would this expense still be there? Take an example. You would still be eating if you did not have the business. So your eating expenses are not deductible. You do not need professional advice, probably. You do not need error and omission insurance. You do not need business insurance. You do not have to pay for business tax filing if you did not have the business. So any expense that you wouldn't have had if you did not have the business, more than likely is a legitimate business expense.
Okay, so it is a fact that when you are self-employed, U.S. government, or rather IRS, allows you to take certain deductions. I guess this is to encourage entrepreneurship.
Absolutely, 100%. The fact is, we are always struggling with the job market, with the employment market.
Right.
If we can encourage more and more people to start their own business, these small businesses will create the jobs for other people. And that's the intent here, to allow them to claim certain expenses that a typical W-2 employee is not allowed to claim.
All right, so now talk about typical W-2 employee. Is there any point that you have to cover that you left out before we go to the next topic?
Absolutely. So we want our viewers to know, if you have multiple jobs during the year, be careful that the Social Security deduction is only on first $160,200. If you have multiple jobs, you probably paid more Social Security taxes than what you should have. Let's say, take an example, Sanjeev ji. For the first 6 months you had a job, you made $100,000. For the second 6 months, you made another $100,000. So both jobs would have deducted the Social Security taxes for you. So in total, in this example, you paid Social Security taxes on $200. So you should be able to get back some excess Social Security taxes that you paid when you file your income tax return. So just be careful about it.
Okay, now talk about Social Security. What if someone doesn't have a Social Security number for a 1099?
Great question, Sanjeev ji. So as Sanjeev ji mentioned, a 1099 requires your name, address, Social Security number or EIN number, and the amount, these four information. But what if somebody does not have a Social Security number? What if you made a payment to somebody who may not be here legally, or to a foreign company, foreign contractor? In that case, if they have an ITIN number, you're not supposed to be hiring them, meaning they don't have the work permit in this country. If you made the payment to a foreign person, foreign country, you're supposed to be filing 1042S. So 1042S requires you to withhold certain taxes before making the payment. So take a step back. The rule is, when you file 1099, and we have a Social Security number for this person, so we know who got the money. We can always chase down that person.
Correct.
But if you don't have a Social Security number, we cannot chase you. We cannot chase somebody in India. So what do?
Correct.
We want the person who is making the payment to withhold certain taxes and pay the government. Let's say if you are supposed to pay $100 to a foreign contractor, you pay them $70, pay $30 to IRS. If this contractor, if this Indian person wants to file the taxes in the US, we'll consider how much is the real tax liability. We are charging you flat 30% on top when you are making the foreign payment. So there are some tax treaties around US. If you live in Mexico, then the tax treaty allows you to pay 5% withholding as opposed to 30%. But for India, there are two slabs, either 30% or 40%. So just be careful. US has tax treaty with 72 countries. So depending on which country you come from, there may be a different tax rate. But the concept is, if the US business is making payment to a foreign country, foreign person, you need to withhold certain taxes and pay the taxes to the government first before making the payment.
Alrighty, that is very helpful information. I'm sure not too many people would have to face that situation, but whoever needs to really face that situation, at least you got a little more extra knowledge on that part. Once again, the show is brought to you by Science CPA Services, a professional accounting firm located in the state of New Jersey, multiple locations. But no matter where you are in this country, you can give them a call at 908-380-6876 or visit sciencecpaservices.com. Of course, over the phone, on Zoom, appointment can be scheduled and they can guide you from point A to point Z to do your taxes right. For any reason, I shouldn't say this, for any reason that you're thinking about changing your CPA, and before you go any further, give Science CPA Services a call to see what they can do for you. Now, what can you do for those employees who report not allowed deductions on their tax returns?
Well,
For example, consequences of misclassifying of
yeah,
income.
so sooner or later, if you are trying to claim a deduction that you're not supposed to be, government has 6 years to come behind you. And is it really worth it? Do you really want not to be able to sleep for 6 years thinking about claiming certain deductions that you shouldn't have? It's not worth the risk. If you are saving a couple of $100 only and you think government is not going to come behind you, is it really worth for you to save those couple of $100 and then keep thinking about it? Just remember, it's not worth messing up with the IRS, messing up with the government. Uncle Sam has a lot more information than what you can imagine.
Oh, yes, very true. Good to know that. All right, as we are inching towards the end of the show, is there anything else you like to add in case if we missed anything when it comes to 1099 for the employees and the contractors?
We would like to help our viewers understand the difference between employee and contractor. For a small business, a lot of time with all good intentions, people end up paying somebody who's working for them as a contractor and not put them on the payroll. Running the payroll sometimes requires a process. There is a cost to run the payroll. A lot of times small business owners takes shortcuts. So we want our viewers to know, how do you differentiate? How do you decide who is an employee, who is a contractor? So the first thing first, there is no one thing. The government will look at it holistically, meaning, does this person work for you only, or does this person have multiple jobs? If you have a heating cooling company, you don't really fix one person's house. You typically have hundreds of clients. If you have a consulting assignment, you typically don't have it for one person. If you are making the website and you are just doing the website work for one client only, more than likely you are an employee to that business. If you had a true consulting assignment, you would be having website work for multiple clients. So first thing is, they are looking at it holistically, where most of the contractor income is coming from. Are you providing the training to this person? Typically, when you call the heating guy, cooling guy, the electrician to fix the electricity, you don't train them. They are not expected to be trained by you. If you are providing the own job training, more than likely that person is not a contractor, is an employee. Tools, are you providing the laptop, the desktop, the machinery for them to do the work? Typically, when you call these electrician, these plumber, they are supposed to bring their own machinery. They are supposed to bring their own tools. You are not supposed to be giving them the tool. So if you are providing them the training, if you are providing them the tools, if their main source of income is your business, if they're working for you consistent, regular hours, you work for me Friday, 5 to 10 p.m. every Friday, I'm busy on Friday. That's an employee, that's not a contractor, because you are setting up the hours. You are demanding when the employee starts. When you call the HVAC guy, what they say, I'll try to come between 9 and 12. I'll try to come between. You are not deciding their hour. They are telling you which day, which time they will come. When you can enforce the hours, you can decide which day, between which time to which time. Typically, that relationship is more of an employee relationship. So there are several factors that the government looks at.
Good point. Okay, so we have covered everything when it comes to 1099 for the 1099 difference between employees and the contractors. Now it's time for the
Quote.
For the quote of the day.
Absolutely, absolutely. So ask me, what's the best investment you can make?
Microsoft, Apple.
Exactly. Everybody has their own preferred list. And I tell you, the best investment you can make is in your own knowledge. The amount of money you can make by upgrading yourself, by upgrading your knowledge, is far more than any market return can give. So when you think about the investment, invest in yourself.
Hey, listen, I agree that, when it comes to knowledge, knowledge is your biggest asset, can be your biggest investment. You don't, because once you have a knowledge, of course, you will receive the interest. It pays you the best interest, sometime in the form of money.
Absolutely.
Sometime many time in the form of recognition.
Social
many
status.
time in the form of achievements.
Absolutely.
But I would take a step further, that when you possess that much of a knowledge, at some point you should share that knowledge with other people, because you're not going to take, even if you take everything with you, what good is it?
That's
so
why
might as well share it with the people.
That's why we run the show.
That's right. That's exactly why we do the Tax Talk every week right here on ITV Gold. With that note, I'd like to thank Mr. AJ Kumar of Science CPA Services. So thank you so very much. And just in the end, I'd like to wish everybody, I know you may be celebrating, whether it's a Lohri, whether it's a Makar Sankranti, whether it's a Pongal, whether it's a Bihu. This is the unity in diversity that we bring from our country, India. So wish you all a very happy festivals and happy days ahead. I'm Sanjeev Pandya. Do take care of yourself. So long.
Thank you.